Okay, the next thing we're going to talk about is a tendency for coaches and players to fixate entirely on the ball and also on the feet, the outermost extremities. And in doing so, you end up missing the larger picture. I would recommend that we start to kind of move our attention away from the ball and away from our feet and more into the proximal part of our body, more the center of our body and the joints that lead out from it. If we move our focus towards the joints, or our movements of the joints, which are known as articulations, you'll start to pick up on a lot of points. One of those points, I'll give you an example here, is when a student takes 9 o'clock position. At 9 o'clock position, the question is this correct position? Well, the ball is pretty much at 9 o'clock. But if my mind is fixated entirely on the ball, what I'm missing is that there's a ridiculous amount of bend. I'm almost at 90 degrees of bend here in my arm. Therefore, the very first movement will either be extension or it'll be a locking of this, creating almost more of a sidearm throw. Okay, so move your focus away from the ball, move your focus away from the feet, focus more on the movements that the joints are performing, and I think you'll pick up a lot more and be able to more readily identify some of the errors that your daughter may be making. There is no magic angle. There is no magical angle for lag or bend. What you'll come to find is, if you know anything about the human body, right, is that the biceps themselves actually act as a flexor. Okay, so that when the palm is up, the biceps are engaged. The moment I turn my hand down, if you move here, you can actually see the muscle disengaging. Okay, when I pronate my hand. When I pronate my hand, I allow for extension to take place because I engage my triceps. Okay, so the biceps are actually, if I keep my palm up, I'm going to have some level of flexion. It doesn't need to be 90 degrees. And the reason why having too much flexion is an issue is that when you come up into drill, the first movement you're going to make is an extension. It's a push. Okay, and you're right back into a locked arm. Or, and I see this quite often as well, what you'll see is a girl with excessive bend in her arm when she's doing drills like 9 o'clock and lock it in, will get to hear it release with this really large space between their hand and their thigh. Okay, there's a huge speed loss from here to here, huge. Biceps will allow for some degree of flexion in our elbow, and that degree is perfectly fine to create the whip that we need. Okay, if I keep my elbow pointed down on the back part of the circle, then and only then will I be in a position to truly have palm up. If it's a little less than, that's fine, but as long as my elbow, the point of my elbow is pointing down towards the ground, my palm position will be correct. All right, and that'll take me, it'll be the first step at least in taking me out of pushing the ball down. You notice pushers, their elbows are oriented in the wrong direction, whereas pullers, their elbows are pointed down. And one of the more common things that I see with kids that are learning to stride off of the plate or to drive off of the plate is they have a tendency when they come back in their motion to turn their foot out here and then turn it even more to push. Okay, the emphasis that has been put on opening has been overdone so much that kids now make it a priority to get themselves open before they get out. Okay, you have to understand that the process is just the opposite of that. It's get out and then allow your body to get open. Allow your body, don't force it. Okay, there's nothing wrong with getting 45 to 60 degrees open because your arm circle path will open your shoulder line the rest of the way. If we get to the point where we're at 90 degrees, we have a tendency to let the ball disappear behind the body and wrap around. Common question on DFP is toe out. How much is too much? Okay, well, it's a pretty simple answer. If you ever watch someone sprint, what you'll actually see is you won't see them sprint with their feet perfectly aligned forward. What you'll actually see is you'll see them toe in or toe out a little bit, actually, to help engage the quads. All right. This is a powerful sprinting position. This is not a sprinting position. I know very few kids who run like this. Okay, so when we pitch, we do not ever want our toe out to be more than what it is when we sprint. Not jog, okay, sprint. So a good way to do this is to have your daughter run directly at your camera, watching the degree at which her body toes out. So once you've seen that degree of her toe out, and then and only then will you know exactly what is most natural for her.